Welcome to the Bag Chatter Podcast, and welcome to the second ever Adam Solo Pod. I know what you're thinking. There is absolutely no way this is backed by anything resembling popular demand. I will say that at least 1.5 people were complimentary of the first episode, and if you're unsure who the half person is, it's you, Barney. For non-Honeybrook members, the half person is the author, James Barnett. So if this isn't a result of previous success, there can only be one option. This is how Brian and I announced the falling out that we've had, and therefore the end of our partnership. I asked Brian about this, and he referred to me as the Yoko Ono of our friendship, to which I assured him that he did not understand the reference he was making. So why am I here? It's because while Brian loves the game of golf, he is a coward when it comes to competition and actually improving his game. Brian's cowardice has led to a lot of Adam-centric episodes, and Brian can't be bothered. He's busy writing and having a diversity of realistic passions, and quite frankly, it's very frustrating. It is his multifaceted existence that leads to you being forced to listen to me tell you a tale about the rounds of golf I recently played in the Kimberton Golf Club Club Championship. If you felt even a slight draw to hearing about these days, let me get Brian's days out of the way first. He had coffee in the morning, and praise be, no risks were taken. Emotions remained at a 5 out of 10, and sterility ruled the day. When I got the email for the Kimberton Club Championship, I sent Brian a screenshot and said, "Any interest in this?" I got the response, no. 2 letters, lowercase, no. Undeterred, I threw my name in the ring. Now, Adam, you might say, you are not a member of Kimberton Golf Club, to which I would reply, first of all, you may call me Mr. Shorey. Second, Kimberton hosts an open club championship, which is a golf code way of saying we don't have a real membership. For poor people like me, this is a huge opportunity to claim incredibly small amounts of clout. My 75 in the qualifying round was good enough to get me the 8 seed and a bye to the round of 16. I know a number of people in this tournament, but my Sweet 16 matchup was against someone I didn't know, a man named Rami. I paid for my round, and I went to the putting green. There was a man putting there, the only one in view, so I approached him. "Are you Rami?" I asked. His putt rolled into the hole, and he looked up at me sternly. "Just because I am brown, you think I am Rami?" he asked. The blood drained from my body before I realized that my mother did not raise a coward. "Yes," I answered. He laughed, shook my hand, and told me I was correct. I rolled a few putts, shaken to the core. I hoped to make 3 on the first hole, but I hit 3 trees instead. No 2 on the same shot, mind you. I hit a tree with my first 3 shots and was immediately 1 down. My tee shot on 2 hit a stump, and then the second hit a tree, though I managed to have the hole. 4.5 trees hit through 2 holes is just an incredible ratio, so I set a lofty goal for the third hole of 0 trees hit. There are about 40 trees lining the dogleg right third hole, and I avoided each of them. Honestly, I probably should have told Rami about my goal for the hole because he seemed confused at my fist pump when my 3-putt bogey to lose the hole dropped into the cup. I've seen a lot of things on golf courses over the years. Between caddying and playing, I've seen many hole-in-ones, a loose horse that damaged greens, an elk that damaged greens, and a loose cow that an Amish little person corralled to keep it from damaging greens. None of these are jokes. Yet when Rami and I got to the 4th hole, I encountered something I had never seen. Freshman golf team tryouts. I am 5'10", the exact same height as Brian, so I don't say this out of judgment, but we came to the 4th hole and discovered 12 of the shortest, most uncoordinated high school freshmen you've ever seen in your life, knocking top flight XL 2000s up a 200-yard par 3, 22 yards at a time. We looked ahead at the fifth hole, and like we were storming the gates of Minas Tirith, a lightning bolt revealed another army of pimple-faced 37 handicaps. Trying to move on from being 2 down through 3 is hard enough, but doing that while waiting 24 minutes on the tee is like trying to pretend that you still respect your friend who is deep in a multi-level marketing scheme. Like, just become a realtor already and spare us from having to watch this sad, sad dance. Long story short, we decided to jump all the way to the 8th hole, but it quickly became clear that we would not be able to jump back to the holes we had skipped. We agreed to play a 13-hole match, which meant that my 2 down through 3 was suddenly a 2 down through 7. It was getting late early, and I needed to move. Stop me if you've heard this. I hit 2 trees on 8 and made a swinging left to right putt to tie the hole. I won 9 with a bogey to get the match back to only 1 down. On 10, I hit a tree, then nicked a tree, my first nick of the day, and I hit a lag putt to 2 feet to stay 1 down. I thought the putt would be conceded, but when it wasn't, I reached into my pocket to discover that I had lost my coin. Rami grabbed a penny out of his pocket and handed it to me. "Don't say I never gave you anything," he joked. "I can think of one thing you're not giving me," I said as I marked it. When he got in for par, a bit indignant, I decided to knock it in with a lean to make a point. The ball caught the edge and horseshoed back at me, and Rami told me the importance of taking my time. My blood boiled. I reached a place I had never felt in the game of golf. Suddenly 2 down, I picked up my tee quickly on 11. I thought it was perfect, and then Rami informed me I might have tree trouble. I was shocked to learn he was once again correct. I hooked a 6-iron from 177 yards to 15 feet and got the match back to only 1 down. If that wasn't good enough, I made a routine par on 12, and that was good enough to even the match. I marched off that green with a purpose. This match was mine, and I was going to take it. I missed a birdie putt on 13 by a margin that I still do not care to think about, and he somehow trickled in a 30-footer for par to keep the match still tied. Dumbstruck, I went to the par 3 14th, a 215-yard par 3 with a tiny green guarded by a left bunker. The greens at Camperton are very firm, and you often need to play short of them. I hit a drawing 6-iron that bounced 10 yards short of the green, rolled up, hit the stick, and stopped 11 inches from the hole for a tap-in birdie to take my first lead of the match. I suddenly had all the momentum in the world, and I pummeled a drive on the par 5 15th, leaving myself a 7-iron into the green that I then pulled into a greenside bunker. When I got to my ball, it was the worst-case scenario. My ball had almost skipped through the bunker, but had stopped about 2 inches back from a 5-inch lip. It was on a slight uphill, but I didn't think I could get it out. Rami came over to take a look and assess my options. He said I could take a swing at it or take an unplayable and drop it backwards. "You aren't getting it out," he said. I decided to take a swing at it since it was match play. I took my stance and opened the face as far as I could. I did some quick geometry and realized that even in the best case, there was no chance. I wanted to open the face more, so I adjusted my body accordingly. I kept opening my stance until the ball was almost directly between my body and the hole. The face opened enough that I was squarely looking at it, and I believed that with proper contact, it might go straight up. I took a swipe at it, and from my perspective, it looked like the ball went so straight in the air that it might be moving backwards. I looked up and was shocked to see the ball floating 15 feet in the air. It landed 3 feet onto the green, kicked forward off the slope, broke to the right, and fell gently into the hole for eagle. I do not say this for dramatic effect. There was a stunned silence. I didn't react. Then I looked at Rami as he lined up his now meaningless birdie putt, and there was a pause. Rami broke the silence by shouting, "What the heck was that?" Rami did not say heck, and he shouted that phrase 6 or 7 times. Rami later described the shot to a group of people as the greatest shot he'd ever seen. And honestly, I think it's the best shot I've ever hit in my entire life. I then birdied the par 3 16th to go 4 under over my final 3 holes and win the match 3-2. When I arrived home, I could tell that my wife respected me more than she had when I left. When I walked in the door, she said, "Can you please take one of these kids?" But the way she said it was different. I was on to the round of 8 where a stiff test faced me. I was playing against Josh. Josh is the 1 seed, a 3-time Kimberton Club champion and a 2-time defending champion. It was going to take everything in me just to keep this match competitive and give myself a chance. My match was at 7:30 a.m. on the first Sunday of football season. I learned on the first tee that Josh is a fellow New Englander and Patriots fan. We halved the first 3 holes, I assume, out of respect for our mutual rooting interest. On the par 3 fourth, we both missed the green, and he got up and down, and I failed to do so. 1 down. Apparently, Tom Brady meant nothing to this guy. We tied the 5th, and Josh just seemed rock solid. I went to the par 3 6th, and I thought about the fact that I was going to need a bunch of birdies if I wanted to have a chance. A note about Kimberton. During the summer, this course plays as firm as any course I have ever played. The greens have been known to bounce balls long, and it is known that you need to club down and run the ball into them. The night before this match, it had poured. The cups were filled with water and the greens were saturated. Knowing the course, we had each left balls significantly short, anticipating bounces that the rain had stolen in the early hours. Josh pulled his tee shot well left. He was immediately frustrated with the shot, no doubt, but it looked like it would catch the greenside bunker. Instead, it bounced left like it was an airplane runway, took another hop left, and disappeared out of bounds. I knocked a ball on the green and evened the match. Hole 7 is a very reachable par 5 with the caveat that you need to carry the ball around 270 to make it reachable. A creek crosses the fairway demanding a decision. I bombed one into the fairway over the water and he laid up well short of the water. He then topped an approach into the hazard and I knocked mine onto the green and 2-putted for birdie. Suddenly, I was 1 up. Josh opened the door again on 8 with another bad drive. I flared one right, but had a shot if I could get my approach over a tree. I did, and I got a fortuitous bounce that left me 15 feet above the hole for birdie. He chipped out from behind a tree and made bogey, leaving me 2 putts to win the hole. Luckily, I know how match play works, and I lagged it up there and tapped it in for the victory. I'm kidding. I blasted my birdie putt 7 feet past the hole. And after briefly contemplating my mortality, I knocked the 7-footer in to actually win the hole. And I was 2 up. On 9, Josh hit it pin high, 18 feet left of the pin. I tugged a pitching wedge and caught the rough long left. I pitched a ball to a foot and the putt was conceded. He ran one 3.5 feet by. I considered conceding the putt, but it was a big moment in the match, and I could tell he was frustrated by the putt. I watched him mark, then line up his putt. He stroked it at perfect speed, but it caught the lip and rimmed out. I was 3 up. I stood on 10 with more confidence than Brian has in his ability to emotionally hedge a sports bet. It's a drivable par 4, and I hit one pin high left, about 30 feet from the hole, in the rough. I hit what I thought was a great chip, but it ran out a little bit more than anticipated, leaving me 4 feet for birdie. Josh made a routine par, meaning that I had a straightforward right to left 4-footer to go 4 up through 10. I made my stroke, and I need you to believe me when I say that I'm pretty sure an armless child could have made a better effort. The putt missed 6 inches short and left. Despite tying the hole, I could tell Josh felt the momentum swing. He walked off the green with a pep in his step. He piped a drive on 11, and I flared another one way right. I found my ball and tried to hoist it over a tree, but it caught what looked like the last possible branch. It kicked dead left across the fairway, directly behind another tree. From there, I rope hooked a 6-iron around the tree, but it got caught up in the rough about 25 yards short of the green. Josh hit his approach to about 20 feet and was poised to cut into my lead with a 2-putt par. I was short-sighted and decided to hit a long flop shot. It was a low percentage play, but I figured the next one didn't matter. I opened up the face and threw it in the air. It landed a foot onto the green in line with the hole. The spin kicked it a little right, and then it broke back to the left and dropped into the cup. Par. I had somehow saved par. For the second straight hole, a tie had seemingly shifted the momentum. I say seemingly because it didn't last long. I missed a 5-footer to tie the hole on 12, and he birdied the par 3 14th, and my 3-up lead was now 1 up. 1 up with 4 to play. 15 is where I holed out from the bunker in my previous match, and I had an eagle chip tracking again that just slipped low, leaving a birdie putt that was conceded. When Josh's birdie effort burned the edge, my lead was back to 2 up. I 3-putted 16, however, and the match went back to 1 up with just 2 to play. On the par 5 17th, we both hit drives in the right rough. I stood over my approach shot about 225 yards in, and I just didn't like my lie. I backed off and laid up to 100 yards, where I would then knock it to 25 feet. Josh went for it and pulled his approach well to the left. After looking for his ball for a few minutes, we found it in 8-inch long grass up against a stump. The match was seemingly over. Josh weighed his options before deciding that standing on the stump was the only option. He stood there, perched like a mountain goat, or perhaps a gargoyle, looking down over Rome. He took a hack at it, and the ball unbelievably came out cleanly. It landed on the fringe and came to rest just outside my ball. I would get a read, but I was shell-shocked. What a shot. He rolled his 30-footer, and the second he hit it, it was perfect. It rolled up to the hole, bobbled a foot short of it, and rested almost impossibly on the left edge. Half of the ball perched over the edge of the hole, like a mountain goat, or perhaps a gargoyle looking down over Rome. I joked that I needed to see the rest of that before obviously conceding the putt, yet he still knocked it in with a whisper. I now had 25 feet for the match. It once again looked perfect off the face. It tracked towards the hole, didn't bobble, and fell into the hole, center cut. I won the match 2-1 and was on to the semifinals. Josh was a great guy. So much fun to play with, and I hope it's not the last time we do it. The Final Four was made up exclusively of very accomplished local amateur players and me. My match was against Frank, who won 3 Phoenixville Opens, qualified for countless state tournaments, and had the misfortune of being forced to leave the house to play me in the semifinals. Frank was the most colorful person I have played in 2024, both in language and in personality. If you are not from Philadelphia, and I tell you that Frank was the most Philadelphia person I've met, you are picturing him eating a cheesesteak and him physically cracking a bell and assaulting a Cowboys fan. And all of that is true, but that doesn't fully describe it. Listen, I don't know that Frank is Italian, but I also know Frank is Italian. He wore an earring. He said, "Use guys," and he was very friendly as he beat me easily on the first hole. And he was incredibly gracious as I won the second hole due to a suspiciously lost ball. On the third hole, he yanked one left on a dogleg right. It took a large bound beyond some white stakes, never to be seen again. He stood there frozen, and while the ball was in the air, remarked, "I don't ever hit a ball like that. Ever." Just as I internally praised his restraint, he raised his driver above his head like he was playing that carnival game where you try to ring the bell but then fail to impress your girlfriend. He smashed his driver into the ground with a velocity that made me, personally, reconsider the quality of Callaway products. Listen, I was homeschooled, so take this with a grain of salt, but what followed was a string of vulgarity that I have never heard in my life. I hit a great drive and he immediately conceded the hole. I was one up. On the par 3 fourth hole, we both missed the green and he got up and down and I did not, to even the match. And suddenly our cart was filled with a spirit of peace towards all people. We both parred hole 5 and then skipped holes 6 and 7 due to a backup. We agreed that we would come back to them if we could or play whatever 2 holes were open if necessary. We tied holes 8 and 9. This is when Frank became glued to his phone, furiously texting and even voice messaging in between shots. I asked if everything was okay, and he told me that 4 days previous, his brother-in-law had greeted him by saying, "What's up, punk?" It didn't bother him much at first, but it festered in the days since, and he had apparently texted his brother-in-law to let him know that he did not appreciate being called punk. On his drive to the golf course, he texted him this. Over the next several holes, he was in a loud argument with his sister. "Listen, just let him know I ain't no punk, and I'll beat his ass if he ever says it again. I don't care if you think I'm stupid for being upset, I ain't no punk." We were even headed to the short par 4 10th, and as we parked by the tee box, he rose his phone to his mouth and said, "First of all, don't you dare call me a liar. I will come there and I will make you say those words to my face." I laughed and I said, "First of all?" He said, "I promise you that's first of all. I will kill this kid." Turns out this kid's about 40. I drove my ball within 15 yards of the green and he hooked one into a tree on the left side. For the second time in the round, his ball was inexplicably nowhere to be found. He told me to hit my ball before deciding whether to go back and hit 3 from the tee, and I hit a good shot to about 8 feet and he conceded the hole. I was 1 up with 8 to play. At this point, I began to picture what the large crystal that comes with this championship would feel like in my hands, and the tens of likes that I might garner posting my picture with it on my Facebook. Everyone would like it. Dad, Grandma, everybody. Frank immediately won holes 11 and 12, and my 1-hole lead was now a 1-hole deficit. I think the par 3 14th is the hardest hole at Camberton. He hit his tee shot into the greenside bunker, and I hit a 4-iron from 210 yards onto the fringe on the right side of this very small green. My 2-putt was enough to tie the match. I once again pictured the crystal on the mantle that resides above the fireplace that I do not own. I hit a great drive on the par 5 15th that I had played at 3 under over the first 2 matches. He pulled his drive left and then hit an approach across the cart path to the right about 80 yards from the hole. I had 200 to the hole, a little uphill, and hit a 5-iron that was right at the flag. I told it to go a little, and when it landed, he said, "Oh, that's right there." And I agreed. Frank has played this course since he was 7 years old, and he assured me that it was probably about 10 feet for eagle. I checked myself, and I braced for the fact that it might be 30 feet, but noted that if he didn't get up and down from 80 yards, I was a 2-putt away from taking the lead with 3 to play. We went to his ball, he had a window, and he hit a great approach to about 20 feet. We drove up to the green, and my ball was nowhere to be found. We searched for a minute only to find my ball in the rough 15 to 20 yards short of the green. I hit a very mediocre pitch and missed my putt, and then he drained a 20-footer to take the lead. What a swing. I thought I had the lead, and suddenly I was 1 down with 3 to play. His tee shot on the par 3 16th never left the flag, and when I say never left the flag, I mean that it literally hit the flag on the way by as it settled about 25 feet away on the back fringe. I didn't hit the flag, but I hit an 8-iron to about 15 feet, making him putt first. Frank poured it in for his second birdie in a row and told me I knew I had to make it. If you hit the pin, you make birdie. That's a rule I live by. There was nobody behind us for several holes, so we agreed that we would play 17 and 18 and then 17 and 18 again if necessary. I'm longer than Frank, so I knew I had to win this par 5 17th to have a chance. He hit a good drive, and I pulled mine left into an open field. I picked up my tee frustrated by the pull, but not worried, and Frank said that might be dead. I didn't even know what he meant. He drove to my ball and started looking for it in an overgrown, abandoned bunker. It was a pit filled with piles of sand and foot-long grass. We found my ball and it was completely dead. I grabbed a lob wedge because I hadn't packed a scythe. My hack miraculously got it out, but only a foot out, where my feet would still be in the pit on a literal pile of sand. I rolled it forward 50 yards from there and then hit an incredible approach from 180 to about 7 feet. I never got to roll my par putt because Frank rolled in another long birdie, his third in a row, to put me dormy. I have played Kimberton 50 times and I've never hit driver on 18 because of the water that creeps in on the left. But I felt the need to make birdie, so I pulled the big stick. Turns out I was right the first 50 times, because what looked like a great drive landed just short of the green and bounded left into the water. Luckily, it didn't matter because Frank poured in his 4th straight birdie to close me out 4-2. He birdied the last 4 to crush my spirit and my hopes of winning the Kimberton Club Championship. He later told me it was the first time he had ever birdied the last 4 at Kimberton. What a punk. I'm not gonna lie to you. I let myself believe that I might win this one. I knew I had a chance. I knew I had the game. And I just got beat. Frank played great golf when it matters, and that's what it takes to win a trophy. And he knows that because he's done it before, and I still haven't. Here's the thing. My handicap is lower than Frank's, but Frank is a seasoned, competitive player, and he got it done when he needed to. And this year has provided me the experience to make me optimistic about 2025 and the years going forward. I'm excited about the future because I am finally putting myself in a position to win something that matters to me. And I believe in the future I will. And I hope you hear about it. But we're not to 2025 yet. We're definitely not to 2026 yet. There's golf left to be played in 2024. Brian and I will be going to North Carolina for the Velcrin Invitational. We have a couple tournaments left in October to maybe salvage a win in the year of our Lord, 2024. And I really hope that you will come back and listen to that on the next episode of Bag Chatter.
Thanks so much for checking out the Bag Chatter podcast. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and you already know how to subscribe to podcasts, so I'm not going to waste your time. You can find us on all the socials at Bag Chatter Golf or Brian Lane Golf, and you can check out everything we have going on at bagchattergolf.com. If you want more content from me and Adam, check out the Bag Chatter Deli. That is our Patreon, where we only serve the choicest portions of 4-ball ham and the leanest cuts of bone meat. For $5 a month, you get to support the pod, and you get a weekly episode of our Friday supporter-only podcast, Cold Cuts, Hot Takes. You can find that at patreon.com/bagchattergolf. You guys are the best. Thanks so much for listening.